Hi, I'm Hunter Heltel and welcome to Nerd Space. This month, in honor of Black History Month, I've decided I'm only going to cover black comic book characters or work done by black artists. This week, I'll be covering the first edition of Tribe, 1993, by Johnson and Stroman. Tribe is a series mainly focusing on black characters and heroes. Let's get started. Our story starts with Victor Von Gronk entering the office of Guido Duva in New York City. Gronk goes up to Duva, partnering with his robot sidekick as he tells Duva he's the new owner of his business. The robot sidekick grabs one of Duva's men by the head and slams it against the wall as Gronk goes up to talk to Duva himself. Gronk uses what appears to be heat or laser vision to take out Duva and leaves the establishment with his sidekick looking to go see a real fight. The setting then changes to the outside of the new Hype Club in West Manhattan. This club has a big claim of changing locations every week and has the attention of not only everybody in town, but also big celebrities. We see an invisible character outside of the club look down upon the people with pity, saying that they wouldn't understand what it's like to be unseen, as they undetectably walk into the club. Inside the club, we see a broken down area with old disco equipment and a ran down bar. Inside the club, someone goes up to the character named Alex and tells him it's about that time. Alex gets up from looking at his magazine with the club design on the inside and starts walking around the establishment. Looking around, he changes the interior to look like what he saw in the magazine, and it looks like a real club. The full name of this character is Alexander Collins. We learn this as he's monologuing about his horoscope that he read this morning. His horoscope said that his social activities would accelerate, he'd add to his wardrobe, and totally transform his life. And as he says this, we watch him transform into a white man wearing a white suit, as he disregards his horoscope, letting the crowd into the club, bringing it to life. Later on, we see a man inside the club telling a couple of his friends to watch the exits. Our invisible friend notices this and says troubles around the corner. After that, the setting changes to a payphone where we see a man begging whoever is at the other end of the line to hopefully pick up. The setting changes again at Brooklyn, at the world-famous beatdown gym, home of the former middleweight champion, Franklin Sadler. In a fighting ring, we see a guy and a girl duking it out, and the guy says he doesn't understand why Murdoch has a girl training her. The girl drives a kick into him as we see him dissolve into many small versions of himself. This is when the phone begins to ring, and an older gentleman at the gym answers the phone, revealing it to be Murdoch, the man standing at the other payphone. It is revealed that Murdoch is in trouble, because he has told man to send Hannibal and Shift, who both aren't there or available at the moment. The scene changes again to another fighting ring with a very large crowd, as we see our character Shift fighting a very large opponent. When what seems to be like a very unfair fight is going on, we get some insight when Shift monologues to himself a little bit. He's thinking to himself that he needs to come off as flashy and not as impossible with his speed. This reveals that Shift has some form of super speed or a speed-like ability. He then goes on to defeat the large character. After this, he notices a Eurotype in Guido's chair, which is presumed to be Grok. Shift takes some pills and is then told that Elias has been looking for him and that Murdoch is in trouble and needs her to get there as fast as possible and that he'd know what he meant. We are back at the Hype where the men are looking for Alex. The man we saw earlier spots Alex and tells his men to go after him, running through the club. The invisible character is watching these events unfold the whole time. Alex uses his abilities to go out the original exit, but makes it look like a brick wall to the men, leaving them in confusion. Our invisible friend attacks these men, beating them senseless, and catches a distorted image of his reflection after these guilt-driven events. This is interrupted by a signal from Elias. In the alleyway, we see Alex back in his normal form as a van screeches to a halt, unleashing a bunch of men with devices on their head going to attack Alex. As the men corner Alex, we see a large figure jump down from the top of the building between Alex and the men. He is very large in uniform and starts taking out the attackers one by one. One of the attackers turns back to the van and turns it into an armed flying machine and turn their sights on Alex and his new defender. The large man tells Alex if he wants to survive that he should come with him and heroically grabs him and jumps out of the way, saving his life, as a shot is fired at them. Luckily, the two avoided the shot. Unluckily, though, the man is prepared to take a second one. We see our invisible character psyching himself up, telling it's only a 2-story jump from where he is to jump down and attack the man in the gunner chair. The invisible man jumps down and beats the attacker out of the chair, saving the two. The invisible man then becomes visible and introduces himself to Alex as Murdoch Ellison. He tells Alex that a European sells these headbands that turns people to slaves. After that, he walks away and tells him to go inside and that the name of his new shadow is Hannibal. Murdoch thinks the fall jarred some of the electronics he uses as he gets in the car with the old man we saw him call earlier. Somewhere else in the city, we see a new character introduce himself as Dwayne Montgomery. His speech is in an iced-out box, leaving the reader to believe that he has some sort of ice manipulation or powers. He explains that his boss is Anthony Franco, the self-appointed crime lord of New York. In the background, we see some of the men from the club being yelled at by the boss. After this, the boss turns to Dwayne and tells him that he doesn't like outsiders, but he chose him because he's highly recommended. He reveals that he wants the hype. We see the men from the club going to leave through the elevator as it reaches their floor and explodes in their faces. Out comes Grok in the mech suit, which was the robot sidekick earlier. He goes up to Franco and Franco exclaims that they had a deal. Upon this extension of grace, Grok uses his laser vision once again to take out Franco. This is where our story leaves off, letting us remember to keep track of who our friends and enemies are. Time for my ratings over this issue. The art I give a 9 out of 10, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Just the cover alone is the main reason why I picked out this book. I think the cover just really gets your attention. The art style reminded me of the older Speed Racers show, and I love the reoccurring images of purple and orange. I thought this brought good contrast to the comic. Dialogue I gave a 9 out of 10. I thought it was used perfectly and helped flow the story just great. The vocabulary used in this was also amazing. I loved the use of inner monologue, and that just seems so natural to the story. And for the plot, I give it a 10 out of 10. This comic kept me on the edge of my seat the whole time, especially with the constant scene change. I think the artist did a great job with introducing new characters throughout the story. The ending was also amazing and left me wanting more. The overall rating leaves us with a 9.3 out of 10. I very much enjoyed this comic book in every aspect. I'd also like to very much encourage you to check it out for yourself and buy a copy or the whole set to support black artists, not only for this month, but in general. I'm Hunter Heltzel and this is Nerd Space. Nerd on and nerd out.